SeraKul team rider Jordán Linstedt is a top event rider in the Northwest region. Over the years, Jordán has skillfully developed two of her event horses, RevitaVet Capato and Tullibards Hawkwind, to the 5-star level. She has competed in many international competitions, including the Rolex Kentucky 3-day event in 2012, 2015, and 2016. In 2017, she won the Bromont 4-star long on Capato. In 2013, Jordán was named to the United States Equestrian Federation Developing Riders team, and in 2017 and 2018, named to the U.S. Equestrian Federation High Performance team. She continues to work regularly with the U.S. Olympic eventing coach Erik Duvander, along with her ongoing commitment to representing the United States in international competitions. Jordán runs a successful training facility in the Pacific Northwest named Jordán Linstedt Eventing, and recently started an import business called Lova Sport Horses.
My first, introduction to horses was my mom had racehorses and had thoroughbreds, and we would trail ride through the Redmond area. I grew up in Redmond, Washington. I took my first professional lessons when I was 10 at a local hunter-jumper farm, and kind of thought I wanted to be a hunter-jumper, but early on decided that really the eventing had stolen my heart. When I was 16, kind of had some top qualifications in our area, which got me more and more vested in the community here in Washington. After my first horse, his name Theo, Gold Force was his competition name. He was a thoroughbred that I had. There were several clinicians that came into our area from the East Coast, and they had kind of decided that maybe I had outgrown the potential of him and what he could do, and that I was ready for the next step. And that was a horse named Jack, Tullibards Hawkwind, that later went on to do really big things, but originally was purchased just to be my next horse and kind of see where he could take me. My parents financially had to really stretch to make it possible to have him. So I'm very grateful that they gave me those opportunities when I was young. And I got him when I was 18, and I competed him until I was about 24, I believe. And he ended up going to Rolex in 2012, which kind of beat all odds. And he had a heart bigger than any horse I've ever ridden. He gave me the opportunity to learn and understand the sport and be safe, and really I credit a lot of my career now to that horse and what he gave me. Challenges throughout my career have been variation. When I was in my early 20s, I lost my dad to a autoimmune disease that he had that was developed when I was a really young child, and that was devastating to me. And I remember my first year going to Kentucky in 2012 definitely took tolls on my family in general. We owned a farm at that time, and financially needed to sell and change life quite a bit, and that I would say has been a big challenge, but also I think I ride and do what I do partly for my dad, and I think he's my biggest supporter, and through growing up, and now I know my dad oversees me and watches from above, and that's something that I take with me every time I leave the start box on cross country. After competing Jack and having Jack for a long term, my family had purchased a very young horse. His name was RevitaVet Capato, at that time Capato, and he was originally going to be a little bit of anything. It could have been a sales horse, could have been a horse for my sister. I had Jack competing at the higher level and was campaigning him and trying to get his future potentially to Kentucky, to Rolex. And Capato was another horse that kind of against what everybody ever thought he would do. Originally when he got sent to me in California, he was supposed to be sold as a dressage horse, and he was extremely spooky and difficult, a bit large and big for our sport, but he's the horse that kind of made me the rider I am today and gave me a bit more credibility and the opportunity to kind of seek my goals and dreams. He's a horse that I competed all over the country, competed at Kentucky in 2015, 16, and 17, went on to win Bromont in 2017, and at that point he was selected for the high performance training lists, and we got to train with the Olympic coaches, and he was a horse that I still had a very, very big future for and wanted to travel to Europe. I know that he would have tackled any cross-country course in the world, let alone just Kentucky. And unfortunately, I lost him to an accident in his pasture, and now have the opportunity to ride so many wonderful horses, but he was really the one that gave me putting my name out there a bit more. Jack stole the hearts of people at Kentucky, and because he was a horse that maybe wasn't supposed to necessarily be at that level, there was such a partnership between he and I, but Capato and I shared that partnership, and then so much more talent. Yeah, so now after Capato and actually the tragedy of losing him, the next year I met my husband now, and we got married, and I have a 1.5-year-old daughter named Peyton. And life kind of changed in so many different ways that right now I'm really focusing on bringing back a big string of very, very talented horses that my owners and I and support team are really, really excited about. SeraKul, I met Todd and Craig at a local Philip Dutton clinic down in Auburn, Washington. I've been absolutely blown away with the product that they've been creating, and it's been really fun to be part of the whole process from the very beginning of introducing SeraKul to the equestrian sports. I think one of the biggest benefits of SeraKul is how easy it is to use, and it creates so many more benefits than a traditional old version of just icing the horses. As event riders, I think people think typically that after galloping is the time that we need to be treating the horse's legs and using a product like SeraKul. But really, as a 3-day event rider, it can be in all 3 phases, as dressage horses, jumping horses, and the endurance part of galloping. I've seen so many benefits through the barn. I think one of the biggest things too with SeraKul is that the way it molds to the horse's leg, and you can use it in a variation of different boots, from the traditional tall yellow ice boots to pocket boots to mesh, and it really forms around the horse's leg. And the time that it's used, traditionally we'd be spending 20 minutes on, 20 minutes off. This can do the same amount of icing the leg essentially, and cold, creating that depth of cold in half the time. At this point, my goals have always been the same since I was a little girl. I can remember writing journal notes that I wanted to ride in the Olympics someday, and not only that, but also have a big training facility and a big support team around me, which I have here in the Northwest, and I'm so grateful for. It takes definitely a village to make all of this happen, and I love teaching. I love sharing what I've learned from other people and giving it back to our community and clients.